The NFL offseason is underway. Who is playing with who next year? Let's find out on this episode of the Single Barrel Sports Podcast. Welcome back to the Single Barrel Sports Podcast.
Watch some college football, have a couple beers, couple bourbons.
Nah, you're the GOAT. There's no debating that.
Will not be nearly as good as the hype.
What's going on, everybody? You can see we do not have Deeb with us this week, but have no fear. This will be a great show. We got a returning podcast guest, Jordan. We got a newbie coming on for the first time, Zach. I'm going to introduce them in just a minute, but we have a lot to unpack this week. It is the first week of the official offseason of the NFL season, and there have been so many moves made. But before we dive into the sports, let's say hello again to Jordan. Jordan, for those who haven't seen you on the podcast yet, why don't you kind of share who you are, what you do, and just say a few words for us tonight.
Yeah, hey, Scott. Thanks for having me back. I'm really happy to be back here with Zachy in tow as well. Or maybe not in tow, but glad to have Zachy here as well. Like I said, my name is Jordan, fellow pharmacist. I know we're all pharmacists here, college buddies, sports fans. We've known each other for a long time. Happy to be back and talk some sports.
Hell yeah, we're happy to have you back. Had a great chat with you last time. I know we got a lot to unpack tonight. But before we dive into it, let's say hello to our new guest. Zach, why don't you introduce yourself, what you're about, maybe how you know Jordan and I, and then we'll dive into the sports talk.
Yeah, what's up? Hey, thanks so much for having me on. I'm Zach, and I know Scott and Jordan. We all met in pharmacy school. Like Jordan mentioned, we're all pharmacists. So, yeah, we linked up. We knew pretty quickly that we were all going to be good friends and, like, just been pretty much best friends ever since. Lived together for a year, been to each other's weddings. Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
that's pretty much it. Like,
well, it's good to have you on here. These guys are both in my primary fantasy football league. We're in a dynasty league. We talk a lot of football, and it's a great week to talk about that. If you haven't been keeping up, this is episode 14 of the Single Barrel Sports Podcast. 14 is a special number for me. It's what I wore on my jersey in high school. But it is also just demonstrative that we've been doing this thing for over 3 months now. So thank you if you've been along for the ride. If you're just catching up to us and you haven't heard the spiel before, we do have a bunch of social media that you can follow us on. I'm not going to be abbreviating it this week, but we're on X, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook for all of our shorts and our just regular social media posts. We're also on YouTube and Spotify for full-length episodes, and we post our shorts to the YouTube channel as well. If you've never been on any of those sites, I ask you just to go check it out. And if you need to find them a little bit easier than remembering how to spell out all that stuff, singlebarrelsports.com. If you spell it correctly, it has links to all of our social media platforms. So we'll see you there, singlebarrelsports.com. Invite a friend, drop a follow, and we're going to dive into some stuff here. So guys, what has been going on in your lives here? How have you guys been?
I'm just busy right now, Scott. We're work's picking up all the time. We're working on selling the house. I know I may have mentioned that last time. We are trying to get it all ready, get all the last stuff out of it, working on showings and things like that, and then getting ready for more work on the new house. But that's about it. Oh, my wife is pregnant, which is known. So we're navigating that and baby planning here at the end of the summer. So all exciting stuff.
Hell yeah. Very excited for you. Zachy, what's new in your life, man?
so my wife is not pregnant, as far as I know. But we do have 2 kids, so I'm also busy. 2 girls, growing up like crazy. Emmy is going to be 3 tomorrow, so, time's flying. Otherwise, just kind of work, just working and kids, and life moves quickly, so.
It sure does. Yeah, I get that. I mean, Parker just started walking last week, so walking on his own. He's been walking a lot with us holding his hands, or holding a hand or a finger, but he walks by himself now, which is kind of a crazy thing. We didn't expect it quite this early. I'm getting over some sort of a weird respiratory illness. The weather just changed here, so it was in the 80s today. And so I'm just kind of figuring out life as the allergies kick in the springtime here. But otherwise, we're thriving. Work is good. Family's good. So, guys, everything's good.
Awesome, man.
Love it.
Hey, for those of you watching out there, we do play some video games too. This is just a random plug, but right now we've been playing a little bit of Monster Hunter. We played a little Marvel Rivals, but one thing we bonded on very, very heavily throughout our time, especially when we were roommates, but even after that, is we played the crap out of NHL. We played a lot of online, and we've had a lot of good memories with that. So maybe some of you out there can relate, but when you guys move away from each other, if you got close friends, the video games are a great way to stay connected. And I don't know if you guys want to comment on that at all, but it's been fun kind of having that way for us to all kind of stay in touch.
Yeah, I mean, I think that actually cut down during COVID. And I'm speaking for myself. I knew some people that were going a little more stir crazy than I was during all that, because during all the lockdowns and everything, at least I had some type of social outlet by just being able, even though I was home playing video games. And so I use it as a social, gathering. So I've always really enjoyed that part of it.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. We're in 3 different states at this point. But like we're still so close, and we play video games and get together all the time. So yeah.
Hell yeah. Yeah. Pour back some bourbons while we do it. That's the single barrel part of the podcast. Cool. All right. Well, we've been doing this thing recently that we call the sports term of the week. And if you guys haven't kept up with that, it's a way for us to kind of talk about a term that is frequently used in sports, but isn't really obvious by its name what it means. And a lot of times we learn these things just from context clues, but they're fairly ambiguous with what they are called. So, guys, I'm going to let you define this week, but given the spirit of the NFL offseason, there's a term that gets thrown out pretty much every summer called the franchise tag. Deeb and I kind of touched on this a little bit last week, but let's give it its own moment to shine this week. Jordan, maybe you can start, and Zach, if you want to fill in any gaps, but what is a franchise tag?
Yeah, so I'll do the broad definition, and Zachy can add any color if he wants to there. But it's basically you are tagging your certain player, where you're calling dibs and where you have the rights to the player. And it's usually a pretty good player that you just don't have a long-term contract for. And it just gives you the exclusive rights for that year for the player without having a long-term contract is the broad term.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good explanation. It doesn't have to be exclusive. It can be non-exclusive. Teams don't do it very often, but if they do non-exclusive, then other teams can actually still negotiate with the player and offer a contract. And if they do, then it has to go back to the team that put the franchise tag on. And if they do want to match it, they have the option to match before any other team can give them a contract. But otherwise, yeah, it just kind of breaks down. It's usually a player that doesn't have a long-term deal, but is a valuable player to the team. So they want to bring him on for another year and essentially try to buy some time to iron out a long-term contract generally.
Yeah, and I recently looked this up, the difference between the exclusive tag versus non-exclusive tag. And do you guys know why financially what the difference is there?
I actually don't. I know I was going to mention this as far as a detail of it is that's a strategy with the team is I believe it's either their previous salary plus 20% or the average of the top 5 salaries at their position in the league. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's why if they're literally the best in the league, that's a deal depending on which way it goes.
Yep. So it's their salary plus 20%, or it's an average of the top 5, whichever is more. Yeah. So actually, if it was the guy who was number 1, let's say, then you'd actually be paying 120% of his contract. So that would actually be a worse deal for them. But that's if you do the exclusive. Well, that's fair. Yeah, true.
I feel like most of the time, in general, it seems like it ends up being the average of the top 5 position for the most part.
Yep. And this is the thing I learned, and I just learned this last week. But the exclusive franchise tag works exactly how you described it, where it's an average of the top 5 players, top 5 highest paid players. The transitional franchise tag is actually an average of the top 10 players at that position. So it's a little cheaper, but then other people can make a bid, they can negotiate, so you don't have as much security keeping that player exclusive to your team. And so the franchise tag, like you said, it's a way to have an emergency hold on to that person for the next year and try and find that long-term deal. But it comes with some dangers as well. And you guys might have seen many times that people end up kind of holding out if they don't have that long-term deal, or maybe having some resentment towards that team because they didn't get a long-term deal. It's an interesting thing. I'm curious. I mean, obviously a big one this year is T. Higgins. What do you guys think about him receiving a transition, or not a transition, but a franchise tag?
Zachy, you go first on this one.
Okay. Yeah. So I don't know. Honestly, I don't know what the Bengals are doing. I can't figure it out. Honestly, I cannot figure it out. it seems like they just don't want to spend the money. I don't know if that's the case. Like, it sounds like, notoriously that they are not like, usually wanting to spend money on their players. And so Joe Burrow's had some hard times with that, but I don't know. I can't figure out what they're doing. It seems like they should have already got Jamar Chase locked up. And then if you give Chase the deal, then you know what you have left to give to T. Higgins or Hendrickson. I can see giving him 1 year, I guess, if you think that you're going to be able to get him long term. But if you're just going to get him 1 year and then let him go, I don't understand it, because I don't think they're going to win a Super Bowl. That's personally.
Yeah. We're going to talk about the Bengals at large later in the episode. Right. That race segue. But Jordy, real quick, why don't you go ahead and answer that too?
So I was going to keep it short, but then I completely agree with Zach. It's confusing because if the goal is to sign him long term, give him a contract now. It's just going to be more expensive. Like, the cap's going to go up, the price is going to go up. So I just don't. It's very confusing, but I guess we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, and this is my teaser for later, but I think the Bengals are in a desperation mode where they are hoping that the extra cap space they get next year is a nice, sizable increase so that they can get through their mess this year and then have a chance to retain him next year. But these types of decisions can really ruin a team and their makeup, because you guys have seen, like the Cowboys, for example, have so much money tied up in so few players that they can't surround them with talent. And so if you can't get them while it's cheap, you're waiting until you have more space. It's going to get more expensive too. So anyway, there's pros and cons to the franchise tag. It'll be very interesting to see what happens with that team. So that's why I wanted to ask about them in particular. Cool. Well, we're going to jump into our weekly recap. This is something we do every week where we kind of talk about some highlights from the sports in the previous week. One of the things we've been talking a lot about is golf, more recently here on the podcast. Now, do either of you, I know when we used to be roommates, we were not really into golf. Do you guys watch golf or keep up with golf at all?
I'm not going to lie, I really don't.
I don't either.
No, that's okay.
I'm so bad at it. I can't even hardly relate to it, honestly. It's right. Yeah, so bad.
I'm terrible at golf. Like,
yeah,
I mean,
honestly, just imagine the three of us playing golf with how impatient and how we're very perfectionists. And I feel like just sucking at a sport like that for 18 holes with our attitudes is really rough.
Frustrating.
Yeah.
There'll be plenty of beer.
Yeah. It involves a lot of beer. Maybe a cigar.
I figured this out, man. My sweet spot is 4 beers per 9 holes. Then I'm golfing okay. Because I don't care what I missed then. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Anyway, let's dive in. We're going to just recap. There was the Arnold Palmer Invitational last week. And it was an event we talked about. We highlighted. We put a betting card out with some potential winners that we could see winning this game, this round. 2 of our 5 people were, I think, in first and second halfway through. So maybe our betting card would have been better for a midpoint winner. But we actually had some other names that kind of came up later on in this. And the winner actually was Russell Henley. He ended up 11 under to win the round. And what was remarkable about this, the story behind this win for Henley, is that with only 5 holes remaining, he trailed the leader by 3 strokes. So he had to make up 3 strokes on only 5 holes. And this is a 4-day event. So he ended at minus 11. If you average that out, like you gained 3 holes per day. He needed to gain 3 in just the final 5 holes. So on 14, he actually hit a birdie, which gained him 1 of the points. And then on 16, he chipped in an eagle. So from outside of the green, he chipped into the hole, hit an eagle on a par 5. And that gave him the lead that he held on to then for 17 and 18. And he ended up winning by 1 stroke. So pretty remarkable to be, down 3 strokes with only 5 holes left. And to get an eagle, that's clutching up under pressure. Just some stats here. This guy made $4 million, and it actually propelled him into a top 10 ranking spot worldwide. So pretty big deal for Russell Henley. Not a guy that we had on our betting card. It's not a guy I had in my fantasy golf league. But congratulations to him. It was a really exciting finish for the second week in a row. We had kind of a nail biter right at the end. So golf is cool, man. If you guys haven't done it, maybe next year we can talk about this. But I play in a league where you do like the FanDuel, like a daily football where you have like a budget and you pick your team. Well, we do that with each of these events, and you have a budget to select the golfers, which is really the only way I've gotten to kind of know this, because I can't sit down and watch golf for 4 days straight and watch every hole and every golfer. But I'm starting to learn the names and I'm seeing the highlights and I'm watching it occasionally now. And it's actually been a little bit more fun than I thought that it used to be. So just want to plug that for anybody else out there who wants to learn golf but doesn't want to watch 4 straight days of golf. These fantasy leagues are pretty nice for that. We're going to move forward to something that we know a little bit more. In fact, we just talked about this, but hockey is something we've all bonded over. We've all been to hockey games. We've talked hockey, played hockey on video game sessions. We've had our hearts broken in NHL playoffs, and we've had some of the biggest celebrations of our life during the Stanley Cup Finals. Jordan, in particular, we were together the night the Blues won the Stanley Cup.
Incredible.
And so let's dive into hockey here. And one of the things that I would have never expected to be talking about ever in my life is Alex Ovechkin is closing in on Wayne Gretzky's his goals record, which is kind of hard to believe. Even when we lived together like 10 years ago, we talked about how this was like an unchaseable goal. People talk about in the NBA, the game was different back then. Well, in hockey, the game was different back then. And while Gretzky was still far and above anybody else that he played with, it was a little bit easier to score goals back then. If you just look at things like the net size, more particularly the size of the pads that the goaltenders wore, it was a lot tighter to their skin. They didn't have the big bulky pads. What do you guys make of this? He's now 8 goals away from tying the record. There's 18 games left in the regular season, and the Capitals are on fire. They're playing amazing hockey. So what is your take on this? I'd love to hear a reaction. Zach, maybe if you want to go and just kind of tell me what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, man. I hope he hits it. Like, I feel like at this point he's got to go. Like, even if it doesn't happen this year, he just has to come back for another year. Then, like, you got to break it at this point. It's incredible, like what Gretzky has done, and no one's ever going to touch that points. Like goals, sure, but like if you start talking points, like no one's ever going to touch the points total. But like it would be pretty sick, like for OV to get it, and I hope he does, and I think he will. I think he'll get it this year, actually. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't quote me on this, but I think he's had like 33 goals or something like that already this year, which is crazy. I'm going to go to you in a second, Jordan, but I did a quick comparison earlier because I was like, is this one of those things where he's just played more seasons? This is his 20th season, and Gretzky played 20 seasons. I don't know if back then they played the same number of games, but I think they did. And so this is a very similar time period to try and chase the same number of goals. So, yeah, Jordan, what are your thoughts on this? Like, did you ever think we'd be talking about this?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty incredible. I'm a big proponent, or I guess opponent against the old school guys in pretty much any sport. People can criticize that. I feel like nostalgia is a hell of a drug. And then also the skill of the average player, just as the years go on, is so much higher. Like the average baseball player, the average basketball, the average hockey player is just so much better than just some schmo from the 70s and 80s that's just drinking beer after the game and just showing up because he's good at hockey. And so it's even more impressive. And also the goal size, because of a lot of things. I mean, Gretzky's the GOAT, and he always will be. But as the game evolves, for the most part, it's like more difficult now to score than it has been. So I think it's awesome. I'm happy for him. And he's been on a tear. Even like I can't remember the exact. I think I was just watching like the news and it said he'd scored like 7 goals in 8 games or something. He's been on a tear like just recently. So if he's got 18 games and he's 8 goals, I mean it seems like a matter of time.
Got it.
Well, and he's going to be out there on anytime they're winning by a goal or two and there's 3 minutes or less left, he's going to be out there as much as possible to try and get that empty netter. Yeah, I mean, I think he'll get it too. I hope it's this year. Like you said, Zach, I think it would be really cool to witness history. And I think it would really cement his legacy to break a goals record in the same number of seasons. I don't want to hear people say, oh, well, he had to come back for that 21st season, because there's a lot of variables. The game is different. The sticks are different. The pads are different. There's a lot of things that have changed. But I think the exciting thing is 10 years ago, I never thought anyone would ever touch this. And here we are potentially going to see an unbreakable record get broken. So congrats to his career. He's been very consistent for a very, very long time. Going to transition a little bit here and just kind of give some highlights, some high-level, some stats for NHL right now. His team, the Washington Capitals, are actually tied for first place in the whole league with the Winnipeg Jets. They are tied at 92 points apiece, at least as of before this episode was recorded tonight. And so that's pretty crazy to think they got already at 92 points. They got 18 games left. And if you think about it, a 100-point season is pretty phenomenal. It's a good year. So to have 18 games to only need 8 more points to hit that 100 mark, these teams are on fire. They're playing really good hockey. I don't know if you guys have anything to add about kind of the hockey they're playing or just in general how good that is.
I mean, I'm just pulling for the Blues to slide into that last wild card. I mean, the Central is nasty, man. Like Winnipeg, Dallas, Colorado, like yeah. I mean, if we can get in though, it's the NHL, and if you get a hot goalie, you get a hot team. It doesn't matter. So, I mean, I'm pulling for the Blues. Trade deadline was pretty fun. Had some interesting things there, but yeah.
And I think hockey is one of my favorite sports to watch in the playoffs. Like the playoffs is just insane, even compared to other sports. There's just a different level of energy, even if the Blues don't end up making it. But playoff hockey is just like so insanely fun. One of the few playoffs that I watch like as many games as I can whenever I can.
Absolutely. I think it's a different sport, man. And these hockey players are different athletes. They really, really care. And they're willing. I mean, I've seen some crazy injuries where they just play through it for the rest of their shift or rest of the game. I wanted to talk about the Blues just to give them a shout out. We're obviously all three very big Blues fans, being from St. Louis and watching them our whole lives. And they've been very 500 this year. And I always make the joke to people in North Carolina that ask about them. I'm like, yeah, they win a game, they lose a game. They win 2 games, they lose 2 games. Everything that they do once, then they do the equal and opposite every time. They were a very 500 team. But then recently, I think they went on like a 4 or 5 game win streak. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Like we're nearing the end of the season. They have a little momentum. And so when I looked today, I checked the standings. They are only 1 point away from the last wild card spot, which is crazy to think about after all this time where it didn't seem like they had any chance of making the playoffs. So what do you guys think? Did the Blues have a shot here?
I think we definitely have a shot. Hockey is one of the streakier sports. Like the hot team is like the most dangerous team going into the playoffs. And then all of a sudden, like if you just get cold, the year the Blues won, you had the Caps, the Penguins, and the Lightning were all like dynamite teams, and they were all out really, really early. So we benefited from that. It's just about who gets hot. And in that one, Binnington was crazy in that playoff run. So anything could happen. Get into the dance. You never know how it's going to play out. So I think that they definitely have a shot.
Speaking of Bennington, yeah, I think the Four Nations tourney was honestly big for the Blues. Like he goes to Canada, he has honestly like the championship game, the gold medal game. He was incredible. Like
Oh, yeah.
and so you bring that confidence back to a team, and I mean he's playing well. Lost Perico, and I think that hurts a lot. Like they were playing really well, and then you get that injury. He's out for at least the regular season. If they make the playoffs, it sounds like he might be back, which would be huge. People sometimes knock Perico, but like, I mean, he's still, in my opinion, the best defenseman we've got. I mean, so I don't know. Bennington's the key, in my opinion. Like, if he just starts going crazy again, the Blues can make a run. I was happy to see that Shen stuck around, unless if they were going to get a haul. Like, I was like, either get a haul for him or just keep him around and see what happens this year because, you never know what can happen in NHL. So,
yeah. Well, it's an exciting time to be a Blues fan. We've seen this thing before, especially with Jordan Binnington. So if he gets hot, look out. That man plays really good under pressure like he did in the Four Nations tournament. And like you said, it's anybody's game once you get into the dance. But while we're on the subject of hockey, I want to show you guys this video. I don't think either of you have seen this yet, and I'm excited to share it. I think it's a good video. We're going to actually pop over to this view here. So this is a clip. It's Toronto versus Utah. I've got the sound off. I just want to hear reactions when you watch this, but you're about to see a hockey fight with a unique strategy utilized.
Superman punch.
I think it's smoked.
Let's just rewind this real quick. I just want you to see. Just hold on. I don't think they're gonna re-show it. Yeah. That's the ring. What the hell was that, bro?
Yikes, dude.
So let's just watch this one more time. We're squaring up and boom.
Oh
my gosh.
Imagine if he just like knocked it out. Like it would be
Just look at this.
very.
Look at this. Like, look at this
way.
screenshot right here.
But did he connect?
Maybe a little bit.
Maybe.
Oh, I think he clipped. He clipped him.
I think he grazed the side of him. Yeah.
He hit something.
And then he just gets smoked.
If he hits something, it's a win.
Yeah, you got the style points for sure.
Yo, that's
But anyway,
I've never seen a Superman punch in a hockey.
Yeah, that came up, and I was like, well, we have to talk about that.
Did you plan too much UFC?
Yeah, for sure. Mike Goldberg somewhere was like, Superman punch. The only thing that guy ever talked about during MMA fights. Anyway, let's move on to the NBA, guys. Similarly, we're getting close to playoff time for the NBAs. It follows pretty much the same cycle here. Kind of impressive, but Cleveland has already clinched playoff berth as of, I don't know exactly when, but as of today, they're already a playoff contender, which is pretty cool. Thinking about you got like at least another month and a half or so of basketball left. Kind of going back with what we did with hockey, the hot teams right now, Cleveland and Oklahoma City are kind of leading the way right now. Cleveland's got 54 wins. Oklahoma City has 53. So some good teams playing there. And then I think we should just kind of do a brief pause here and look at the Lakers, who people didn't really think of them as a playoff contender or a potential champion. But after they traded for Luka Doncic, they've kind of had a lot of upside. And they, in their last 10 games, have gone 8-2. I think that included like a 6-game winning streak. So what do you guys think? I mean, is this team, is LeBron, is he in the running again now that he's got a guy like Luka? Did he not need a big like Anthony Davis? Like, they're doing pretty good. What do you guys think? Jordy, what do you think?
I think everyone's surprised at how good their defense has been since losing Anthony Davis. Right now, LeBron just went down in the Boston game, and so he's got like a groin injury, like a small injury. They said maybe like a week or two, so they'll nurse him back. I think they're locked in for the playoffs right now. There's just a matter of seeding in the middle of the pack, I think like 4 or 5 seeds, something like that. And so they're definitely a dangerous team. Super well coached. JJ's got them, coached up really good. They're like outplaying defensively than what everyone expected. And also Luka, I would say, is still just not normal Luka. He's still getting back from that injury that kept him out for so long. And LeBron's been playing just bonkers for his age. Like, I mean, just in general, he's just been insane. So no one's going to want to play them in the series. Like when you've got LeBron and Luka, like anything could happen. Like all bets are off. It's going to be fun down the stretch.
Yeah. Go ahead, Zachy. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, yeah, I mean, I agree. Luka, anytime you get a guy in his prime and a top 5 player in the NBA, maybe top 3, you could argue, and add him to LeBron, who can literally just still do everything at his age. He's unselfish. Like, you can say whatever you want about LeBron, but like, he's not necessarily going to go out there. He's not going to go out and be looking for his points and taking 20 shots a night or whatever. Like, he'll do what he needs to do to try to win games. He'll play defense. He gets bored. He passes. I feel like, honestly, LeBron is a perfect fit for Luka. Like, Luka can go out there and score. He can also facilitate, but LeBron can facilitate. He can play defense. He can get boards. Like, you put the two of them together, I mean, it's pretty nasty. Like, I wouldn't want to play him.
And I think it's no secret I'm a big LeBron fan, for anyone who's been paying attention along the way. So we're talking about them because it's really promising to see that they actually have a chance to go to the dance again at the age of 40, when we don't know how many years we have left of that career. So exciting to follow that team. There's some other amazing teams in the league this year, but certainly want to mention the Lakers when we look ahead here at the upcoming playoffs. One thing I didn't really plan to talk about, but I'm curious what you guys have to say about this, but do you guys see the Joker's game last week?
Was he about the 30-20 game?
Yeah, the first ever 30-20-20 in league history. Like, I don't know if you saw this stat. He had a triple-double in the first half, and then he had another triple-double. Like,
yeah, he had 2 of them, basically. Two
triple-doubles in the same game, yes.
Yeah, he's insane.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I think he's like the best, even though Shea is just going crazy this year. I think Joker's the best in the league. It's like that argument where like you can't win MVP every year, like with LeBron in his prime. But I mean, it's pretty nuts.
Yeah. It's just one of those crazy stats. I was like, we have to talk about that. But let's transition. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, you start thinking about like all-time type of standpoint for Jokic, and it's like he puts up stats like this year after year. But yeah, it's just crazy. It
is insane. Yeah. And not, in my opinion, not always in the media like some of the other players. I mean, you hear a lot about a lot of players, and you certainly hear a lot about him, but I don't think he commands as much of a media presence as he deserves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think it's because he got like negative 1,000 athleticism.
I mean, he's a guy that if you looked at him and saw him at whatever your local gym where you go to play pickup basketball, I mean, obviously he's crazy tall. So for an average person, you'd be like, wow, okay. But like for an NBA player, you look at that guy on the NBA court and you're not going to be like, wow, man, like he looks like he's going to just go destroy everyone. And then he just goes and destroys everyone.
That's so real. Well, let's talk March Madness, guys. Obviously, that's coming up quickly here. Selection Sunday, this coming Sunday on the 16th. And the tournament starts rapidly after that. So one thing I want to make clear for everyone listening, we will have an SBS tournament bracket. So if you guys want to play March Madness with our podcast, I really hope you do. We had 19 people play along with the college football playoffs. I'd love to have more than that following along for the NCAA March Madness. So we'll be posting those links on our socials after Selection Sunday. We'll be sure to get that out. We want everyone in. There will be a small prize. I don't want to say it's going to be huge, but $10 or $20. We'll kick a gift card over to somebody whoever wins this whole tournament. So please consider joining. A little bit of an incentive in there, but let's have some fun with that. I think March Madness is a very exciting time and a very easy way to include a lot of people in the conversation. So we'd love to include you. Now, with that being said, Zachy, what happened at SIUE?
Dude, let's go. All right, so for anyone that doesn't know, Scott, Jordan, and I all went to Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville, SIUE, and they just won the Ohio Valley Conference Tournament. So SIUE is going dancing for the first time ever. Let's
go. That is exciting.
What's really going to get?
16. I mean, they're absolutely getting to 16. Yeah. They're going to play like Auburn or Duke, and they're probably going to get destroyed. But
I believe
they made it. So
we're on the bracket,
Oh, yeah. It's going to be Virginia, and whoever that was, whenever they is 16-1. Oh yeah, that's right. Let's go SIUE, maybe. Let's go.
Hey, maybe we'll be the new Loyola. They always upset, Yeah. Jordan, do you remember when we were in school and we first moved to D1? I know you and I laughed about this a lot, but you remember when we beat Murray State at home and everyone rushed the court?
I do. I very much do. I know. Whatever it was that one. I did one of the halftime money grab games at one of the games where I had to pick up as much money as I could. But yeah, it was almost a little bit embarrassing because you're like, did this mean anything? It's like no, it was just a team that was ranked. I think they were just ranked. They were that high.
I think they were in the 20s.
Yeah, it was just like
Morant.
Yeah, I think so.
If it was Ja, then that's a bit different. But it wasn't Ja because
it was like our first year in D1, and we just happened to beat them.
But I have to say, being there was kind of hype. Yeah. I felt a little lame afterwards, but it was kind of hype at the time. You're like, oh yeah, it's.
Well, I'm not going to have you guys make any predictions yet. We are going to have a question about March Madness later on in the show today. But for everyone listening, please consider joining our March Madness Bracket Challenge. We will have that posted on all socials soon. We want you to be a part of it and be a part of this Single Barrel Sports community. But we're going to move on now. We have a big thing to talk about. I alluded to this at the intro. NFL. We've been shying away a little bit from NFL the last few weeks. But this is a huge week for the NFL. Lots of moves, lots of trade. There's been big trades. There's been tons of free agency signings. In fact, breaking news, if you guys didn't already see this, Joey Bosa just signed with the Bills.
Oh, I did not see that. No.
1 year, $12.6 million deal. So they didn't break the bank on him, but they got him for a year. They're in their prime right now. I mean, there's a Super Bowl contender. Add somebody like Joey Bosa. That's a pretty big deal, I think. So kind of breaking news at the exact true.
Yeah,
we're yeah. That's as breaking as news gets. We're in the middle of live recording, and I just got the notification on my phone for that. So that's a big one.
Yeah. Nice.
But let's dive in. I want to actually start just talking about the quarterback situation. There's a lot of stuff that's happened this week. In no particular order, we're going to start with Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold to the Seahawks, guys. What do you think about that? What did you think would happen with Sam Darnold this season? And then how do you feel about what did happen? Jordan, go ahead.
Okay. I did not think that the Vikings were going to keep him just because you spent so much on JJ McCarthy and they were so high on him. I think it's more Justin Jefferson and whoever, and Kevin O'Connell's kind of a offensive / quarterback whiz. So maybe he can prove me wrong. He got paid. I don't think the Seattle situation is the worst situation. They did get rid of DK Metcalf, so it's a little bit in flux. I think we're going to see somewhere in between what was last year and like just Jets Darnold. So I think he'll do okay, but I would be absolutely shocked if he just picks up right where he left off and they're like 14-win team and he's just balling out on a weekly basis. I'll honestly be shocked, but who knows?
And they also got rid of Tyler Lockett. So not that he's been super impactful in recent years, but you get rid of DK and Lockett, so you got JSN still. But curious to see how Darnold does on a team like that. Zachy, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I just like to say good on Sam Darnold, right? Like he just comes out like, he's been tossed aside for his career. He had the weapons with, he's got Jettis, he's got Addison, he's got Jones, he's got Kevin O'Connell, but he still was executing. Like, I mean, he was playing good football. So he comes out, he plays great football. They move on to JJ McCarthy. I can see that, but, good on him. He gets paid, he gets a deal. And go prove some people wrong. I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of with Jordan, and I think there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be on that boat. Like, okay, you've done it for a year, but let's see it with a lesser, cast, a lesser supporting cast, a lesser coach. But dude, like, I would kind of love to see him continue to succeed. Like, it'd be pretty sick. I think my prediction is probably middling at best. He doesn't have a great supporting cast in Seattle. Get the ball to, in my opinion, Kenneth Walker a lot. But no DK, no Tyler Lockett. Either get that man some weapons or I don't know. It might be kind of rough, but good on him. That's all I'm saying. Like, good on him, man.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with both of you. I think there might be some regression from what he did last year. I mean, he got at least a couple MVP votes last year, which is crazy to think he's been a journeyman. It also is interesting that after a season like that he still continues to be a journeyman and is on yet another team. But I'm a Darnold fan. I loved what he did this year. Hopefully he has success. Going back to the Vikings, I think it makes a lot of sense to plan around the future of JJ McCarthy. But is he going to be ready for week 1 of this coming season? And if not, this next thing becomes really critical too. Daniel Jones just signed with the Colts. They brought him in, and I thought that he was going to be a temporary piece while they waited for JJ, and I thought Darnold would leave. But now they've gone and lost both of them. They've actually lost all 3 of their active quarterbacks from the roster last year. And so I'm really curious to see what they do. But what do you guys think about Danny Dimes on the Colts? What's initial impressions there?
Hey, you want to go, Jordan?
Go ahead, Zach.
I was just going to say, I've been pretty outspoken on how I don't believe in Anthony Richardson as a long-term quarterback. I mean, you can look at a lot of different things, completion percentage. You can look at just like the amount of games that he's played as quarterback. I don't believe in Anthony Richardson. I don't know that I believe in Danny Dimes. So, but hey, I mean, if you're the Colts, you got to hope that one of them can kind of take off. They say they're going to have a true quarterback competition in camp. I don't know if I believe him. I think Anthony Richardson is still more or less slotted in as the starting quarterback, unless if he just is absolutely garbage during all the offseason stuff and in like OTAs and everything. I don't think Danny's going to be coming in and starting week 1. I don't know, man. Like, I don't love it for the Colts in either situation, like, personally, but
before we go to Jordan here, I do have a fun stat here. Just looking at the betting odds, this is a really funny stat I saw today. The Colts, before this trade, their odds of winning the Super Bowl this upcoming year were plus 8,500. So not great.
Yeah.
Their odds of winning the Super Bowl after this trade were plus 8,500. It did not change at all.
Yeah, I mean,
that's incredible. What's already that far off?
Accurate. Yeah. I mean,
what do you think, Jordan?
I'm gonna take a slightly different take than Zachy here. I'm completely aligned on the Anthony Richardson side of things. He just doesn't have the reps like in college or even high school. Like you just don't have enough experience, and it's been painful to watch. Daniel Jones has shown success. Now, I know that didn't pan out long term with the Giants and they moved on from him, but he showed that he can operate an offense competently in and have a somewhat successful season. He's shown that he can do that. Shane Steichen's known as somewhat of a quarterback whiz coach. So I predict that Richardson will start the season, but week 4 or 5-ish, if things aren't going well, I think the Anthony Richardson will be on a short leash. And the only way that Daniel Jones starts is if there is such a huge gap in like the preseason or leading into through training camp that there's like almost like a mutiny. Like the players know. So if the players are letting the coaches know like, hey, this isn't going to pan out, then it won't be Richardson. That'd be a terrible sign for him. But otherwise, you need to do everything you can to make him confident and make him be the starter, at least going into the season, in my opinion. But I'm not a believer. And I think that Jones in the right situation can have some success now.
Some people think that he's like an athletic. He has great athleticism and can be a strong quarterback. The inconsistency, and especially in these recent poor seasons, make me kind of a doubter. But Jordan, you know as much as anyone, I've had these talks with you that sometimes the scheme matters more than the player. So maybe he finds success somewhere else. Pat McAfee said today, "We got our guy." He believes in Daniel Jones to be the guy. And he actually went as far as to say that he thinks they should trade Anthony Richardson, let him have a fresh chance, a fresh start, and a chance to be a starter somewhere else, because he thinks that it's just not going to happen now at Indy. There's been too many years of not really meeting the mark. So I guess we'll see. But it's an interesting thing, because that was when I saw that, I was like, really? Like, what does that look like?
I did want to make a comment that where else, if the Anthony Richardson situation is so up in the air, where else can you get a quarterback that has shown at least at some point that he can have some success in some system for the price that they paid? Because what did he get paid? It was like 10 million, 9 million. It was like, it was so for at least in the past, some type of production in your situation where you're unsure about Richardson, you can't go like completely just move off of him if you still believe. You can get Daniel Jones, who you think you can work with, and I don't know. I think it's smart. I think in the short term, while you're figuring your stuff out for the money.
Yeah, give me Jameis Winston. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
We know.
Hey, I mean, he's making less than Darius Slayton, greatest agent of all time. I'm very happy him $12 million a year for 3 years. I don't know, but
you know what? I don't want to go too far on this ledge, but I think Darius Slayton can be a productive wide receiver in the right system with the right quarterback, which the Giants still don't have.
I was going to say, but he's on the Giants, so.
Well, all right, let's move on. I'll go ahead.
You see these types of contracts in like the year when the salary cap bumps up, like in the NBA, and like there was like when Matthew Dellavedova got some insane contract just because the salary cap went up and they have to spend money. So now I think you're seeing some of those contracts where they're like, hey, we like this guy, let's just give him money because the cap's going up. So I think that's part of these kind of what seem like crazy contracts too.
He played hard at the end of the year too, but I don't want to digress too much on Slayton. Let's talk about other quarterbacks here, because there's been a lot. Justin Fields to the Jets. That was kind of a shocker to me. I had heard speculation that Fields might go to the Jets, but I didn't think that it was substantiated. What does that leave for the Jets? I mean, after 2 treacherous seasons in a row, they thought last year would be the savior. They brought in Rodgers. They brought in Devontae. They ended up firing their head coach, firing their GM. I mean, what a mess of a team. And now you're bringing in Justin Fields, who was 4-2 on the Steelers before he got benched, right? He had a winning record. His stats were atrocious. What do you guys think? How does this work? There's a lot of young offensive talent on that team. You bring in a guy like Fields. Is that going to waste now, or might there be some success?
Zachy, I think you should go first as the a completely unbiased third-party evaluator of Justin Fields. I think you should go.
So my hot take before last season was that Aaron Rodgers would play every game for the Jets and they would not make the playoffs. It was spicy at the time, and it actually hit, which is kind of a miracle.
With Foster Hullers too.
May have been biased on the fact that I'm a Bears fan. My hot take this time is that Justin Fields takes the Jets to the playoffs this year. Really? Justin Fields takes the Jets to the playoffs this year.
Hold on. I like it. I like it.
For those of you football games.
For those of you watching right now, I need to hear in the comments, any platform, Do you think Justin Fields takes the Jets to the playoffs this year, or do you disagree with that? All right, Zachy, go ahead. Continue.
Yeah, I was just gonna say. I mean, I think he actually elevates Brees Hall. You can argue Garrett Wilson that he doesn't, but Garrett Wilson is a great route runner. If they scheme appropriately, I mean, I think that Fields can get him the ball, and with the running option that he has, it's not what Aaron Rodgers had at that point in his career. And if you have to worry about Justin Fields running the ball or Brees Hall getting the ball and taking off, like honestly, I think it's going to be. I don't know. I mean, I'm biased. I admit I'm biased. I think the Jets are better than last year significantly, and I think they make the playoffs.
Let me ask you this.
I'm going for it.
Let me ask you this. Do you think Fields in the year of 2025 can run a similar offense to what Lamar Jackson ran in his rookie season playing for the Ravens?
I don't know.
Because Lamar was not known as a great passer his first year.
Yeah, that's tough. They got to scheme. They got to scheme it right. They got to get, quick passes. They got to, make sure they're getting Garrett Wilson the ball, in my opinion. You got to build that offense around Garrett Wilson, and then potentially even like RPOs with like, Brees Hall involved. I think it's got to be built around making the defense off balance, not knowing if Justin's going to take off and run, if Brees is going to take off and run, or if Garrett Wilson's going to torch you. I mean, I don't know. And they may tank. I mean, but I'm gonna give them a thumbs up. I love to see Justin get another shot. I think he had a raw deal with the Bears. He had no protection. He did the best he could, in my opinion. And I think he can win football games. I do think he can. I mean, even in Pittsburgh, we talked about it. He had a winning record. The defense was a big part of that. They were winning low-scoring games, so he's got to get some points on the board. But that's my hot take. I'm going to stick with it. I think Justin Fields can lead the Jets to the playoffs.
You know what? I like your hot take, and I hope that he has a good year. I think the RPO absolutely has to be a part of that team's success if they have it.
Yeah.
Jordy, any other remarks to that?
I love Zach's take. I think it's super fun. I do think, again, price. Like, I think they did pay a lot. Was it 20 million a year, I think? 20 or something. Yeah. I think it was 40 million total for 2 years. Yeah. Again, with these quarterbacks, Tua Tagovailoa is playing like 55 a year. So less than half the price for a running quarterback. That I agree had a raw deal. And if you're confident in your coordinator, I don't even know who the offensive coordinator for the Jets is. And I know Aaron Glenn's the defensive coach, but yeah. But I think if they work to scheme him in and make him feel comfortable, things happen. I think that they're in such a bad spot that I think it'd be interesting. I'm excited to see. We'll have to revisit to see how Zach's take goes.
I love the take. I can't wait to revisit that. But let's move to another team here. Everyone knew the Raiders were going to make a move. I don't know that everyone. I certainly didn't have this on my radar. But Geno Smith on the Raiders. What do you guys think about that? Jordan, you can go first this time.
I find it interesting reuniting with Pete Carroll. I don't quite know what they're hoping to achieve this year and with the deal in general. I don't think anyone thinks that Geno Smith is like a Super Bowl winning caliber player. So like, what are you accomplishing? I guess there's really not too many options. I will say in his defense, he's been like a sneakily good player, almost underrated, especially if you look at his stats, completion percentage, yards, touchdowns. Like I think he's like underrated in those stats for the last
shocking
few years. Exactly. So I don't know. I'm going to be out on the Raiders until they show me otherwise. That's my take. Except for Brock Bowers, who's the GOAT.
It's almost like they were like, we absolutely have to have a quarterback to throw the ball to Brock Bowers. And Jacoby Myers had a good year last year. He was like a sneaky good player. But they need a lot of help. They really do need a lot of other pieces. So, Zach, what do you think?
I think it's more about like the quality of the quarterbacks in the upcoming draft class than it is about Geno Smith.
I think I had that take last week.
Okay, yeah, I think they're looking at what is out there in this draft class at quarterback, and I guess I don't know. I'm not big on Cam Ward or Sanders, and Jackson Dart is getting kind of tossed around in there, but they're sitting in number 6 and they're going, I don't love any of these guys. We need to get somebody that can win us some football games this year. They're still trying to put people in the seats. They're still trying to make money. I don't know that Geno is going to come in there and just absolutely destroy or anything. I mean, no one's expecting that. But I do think that Geno Smith will operate an offense and win them more football games than Cam Ward or Sanders personally. That's just where I'm at. So I think they're looking at it. If I was guessing, I think that's probably what they're thinking. Like, let's go get a guy that can win us some games, fill the seats, hopefully, and honestly, wait for another quarterback class. And if he tanks, then you hope for a better quarterback in the next class.
That's a valid take. It's a valid take. And I said this last week. Anyone who chooses a quarterback in this year's draft loses. I don't think there's a single quarterback in this draft that I would be confidently drafting. People are saying Jackson Dart after some development time, maybe 4 or 5 years down the road. You don't spend a first round draft pick on that. You know what I mean? So I don't want a quarterback in this draft. That's why people are trading. They're picking up Justin Fields. They're anyway. The Breslins.
I just want to say one thing real quick about. I actually like if you can get Jackson Dart like a second rounder. Like if at least it's not your first rounder. Like I think you can absorb a second round miss, and if you think that Jackson Dart can be in the same range as like a Shador, I know it's different player than Cam Ward, but I don't know. I think it might be worth trying to spend your second and then just get best player available at your first. But yeah, the quality like last year was an iconic, a legendary QB class already, so it's hard to compare.
I think people are it's recency bias, and people are acting like it's the same thing, and it is not the same thing this year. Yeah. If anything, this is a running back class, in my opinion.
Yep, 100%. Yep.
And the Raiders could use one of those, too.
But at 6, maybe?
Yeah. Let's move on. We got a lot of players to talk about here, so but let's talk about the Browns here, and there's a couple things I want to talk about. They traded DTR today. DTR in a 5th for Kenny Pickett. I think that's a win for the Browns. DTR was trash. I had him on my dynasty team. I wanted him to pan out. He did not. He was horrible. Sorry if you're watching DTR. Kenny Pickett's not also not very good, but he's okay. He's okay. So I just want to say Pickett to the Browns, and then I want to pivot to something else that I've seen rumors of, which is the Browns trading for Kirk Cousins. What do you guys think about that? Have you heard anything, and how do you feel like that might work? You got Jerry Jeudy there, who's just begging for a quarterback to play with. What do you guys think?
Go ahead, Zachy.
Yeah, definitely hearing the speculation. And I think Kirk Cousins can go in there and be maybe not as high like ceiling whenever Winston is just throwing like bomb touchdowns, but not as like destructive as well as far as like making bad decisions and throwing crazy interceptions. So I think Kirk Cousins would be a pretty good fit there. Go in there and get Jeudy, somebody get him the ball, Cedric Tillman, get him the ball. They have a lot of holes though, man. The Browns are back. I don't know how they managed to do it. It's like the Bears, honestly. It's like if you're a Browns fan and you're like me and I'm a Bears fan, then every year you start thinking like things are going up, things are looking good. Maybe you make the playoffs once or something, and then somehow you just manage to just fall apart and be back at the bottom of the league. And I feel like that's kind of where the Browns are. And I don't honestly think it matters if they put Kirk Cousins in there, Aaron Rodgers, or whatever. They're not going to be good this year. It could be fantasy relevant though. So yeah,
that's why I want it.
100%.
Go ahead, Grant. Go ahead.
I get that. Yeah.
What's my theme so far is price. Kirk Cousins is way too expensive for Kirk Cousins, and also there with the Sean situation is still a nightmare for his deal. They just paid Myles Garrett to just be the best defensive player in the league for nothing. And now you're going to add on Kirk. I forget exactly how much he's making, but it ain't cheap. It's 35 or something. Like,
it's a lot.
It's not cheap by any means. It's like, I don't know. How close are they? Is Kirk going to go in there? And I mean, I do think that he'll play better because I think he was really, really not well with his Achilles last year. Like, was it his arm too? There's some other injury I think that he had shoulder. Maybe there's something that he said that that he was injured. That sorry, he really had no zip at all. So I think it was been a different injury. There's
No zip and no mobility. He was like really struggling. Yes.
he was something else that was going on. So if he can be healthy, like the decision making at quarterback is the most important thing. But again, price. Find something else. Like do what the Colts did. They found Daniel Jones as like a band-aid to figure it out. It's like I mean, I know you don't want to just like punt on the year, but like I just don't really see where it gets. I'm like, I know, sorry, Scotty, I know you want it to happen for fantasy.
Well, I want it to happen for fantasy football because I have Cousins on my bench in a dynasty league, and I also have Jerry Jeudy, who he needs someone to throw the damn football.
He does.
I mean, look at it. His yards last year were insane, and he only had Winston for like half the season. But he was like in the top 5 or 6 and receiving yards, and it was only because of Jameis Winston.
Yeah.
Kirk Cousins, in my opinion, is a better version of Jay Cutler, and I think that any team who is on the bubble, which I don't think the Browns are on the bubble, but any team on the bubble who wants someone to give them a chance, a gamble, if you will, Kirk Cousins is that guy, and I don't know what other teams are like that. Cousins, the Giants are another team that could be interesting, but I hope he goes to the Browns.
For the money, give me Gardner Minshew.
Gardner Minshew gives you a chance, but
a lot cheaper.
He's a lot cheaper. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on. It was a big topic in the recent weeks. Everyone that I talked to thought he was probably going to be traded here, but Matthew Stafford stays with the Rams. What do you guys think about that? Just quickly, first impression.
Yes, sir. I'll say I think it's good for the Rams. It needed to happen. It's good for Stafford. They were really close to beating the Philadelphia Eagles. They're the closest probably to competing with the Eagles. I do think they're a Super Bowl contender. They're right there. Bring him back. I think it's best for him. Gives him the chance to win another Super Bowl. Best for the team. I actually like what they're doing in the offseason. So they're going to be a scary team, I think.
They brought in Devontae Adams. They're probably going to lose Cooper Kupp. Mm-hmm. To me, a Cooper Kupp who has been injury plagued recently, that's about net neutral in my opinion. I want Cooper Kupp to have a really good year again, but I don't think they're any worse than they were last season. Zach, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think if Kupp is healthy, then I don't know that Devontae is a significant upgrade over a healthy Kupp, but that offense is really good. They have some good young defenders. They're a good team. I think it made sense for Stafford to stay there at this stage in his career. It's as good of a chance as any is getting another ring. I imagine at this point he's made the money. You just want to go win a Super Bowl. So it made sense. Good for them. Good for him. Yeah.
Well, a couple more thoughts here, and these are connected to each other. Lots of speculation. Aaron Rodgers going to the Steelers. Lots of speculation. I actually thought it was going to happen today. Hasn't happened yet, but I keep hearing more and more about that it probably will happen. So 2 thoughts with that. Actually, one thought with that. We'll talk about the rest in a minute. What do you think? Is Rodgers going to the Steelers, or do you think he'll go elsewhere, or is he going to retire?
You want me to take this first?
Go ahead.
I alluded to this with my hot take of last year. So I think that Aaron Rodgers is washed up. I think he's a diva, and I think he's always been a diva. But at least now, at least before, he had the talent to make up for the fact that he's a diva. But now he's just a diva that's not good at football. So if the Steelers want to lose a lot of games, they can sign Aaron Rodgers.
Go ahead, Jordan.
So I'll be the Aaron Rodgers apologist, I guess, at this point. I'll double down. Didn't work out with the Jets. I think the whole team was in disarray. Mike Tomlin is, by all accounts, is not going to put up with any shenanigans. And also Aaron Rodgers, by most of his teammates, is a great teammate. And yeah, he's going to call you out for your bullshit whenever you aren't doing what you're doing on a route. And yeah, he's a little bit wacko in some different areas. But he was also hurt for a good portion of the season. And if you actually go back and look at his stats versus some other people, he wasn't just bottom, 5 in the league. He had 28 touchdowns, 11 picks. It wasn't absolutely atrocious. And so I think get him in the right situation if they can. He's got DK Metcalf to throw to. I'm not about to say they're in payout.
And Pickens.
And Pickens for now.
Maybe.
For now. Yeah. But I actually think it makes sense. Go play for Tomlin.
I will caveat real quick.
Go ahead. I'm done.
I'll caveat real quick. I might, just be a little bit bitter about Aaron Rodgers and his reign with the Green Bay Packers. So, but I do respect he's had a great career. He's a great quarterback. I do actually support. Like I stand by the fact that I think he's done. I think he's washed.
I think this is only a slightly better position, if at all, from what he was in last year, which was a horrible situation. He had a better running back on the Jets, so there was always that to take pressure off of him. I would argue similar wide receivers between Wilson and then having Devontae Adams in the later half of the season. Obviously, Pickens and DK are both great. Will they both be on the team? Who knows? I don't think it's much of a better situation to bring a quarterback into that's going to demand a high salary, most likely. And I don't think it's going to be a great move for the team overall, but I don't think they have a lot of options for this year either. And they do have talent on the team, so you've got to do something.
Yeah, I would argue that I agree to a certain point, but I think the big difference is going to be the stability of the organization, which has historically been just one of the most like even-keeled, well-run organizations, as well as Mike Tomlin at the helm of that, being the head coach. That I think that will be the reason, because I think Rodgers was very openly critical about just the absolute dumpster fire that was the New York Jets' whole org. So as they got rid of their general manager, their coach, obviously, so it was all a mess. So you're going to have the stability of Tomlin, you're going to have the stability of the front office to try to put together a team, and they're not going to put up with the shenanigans. I don't think so if he does go there. So I think it'll be a better situation for that reason alone, even if Arthur Smith isn't my favorite offensive coordinator ever.
That's fair. Let's keep talking about the Steelers here. Russell Wilson is a free agent this year. They could re-sign him. I haven't heard a lot of interest in doing that. It sounds like they're more interested in Rodgers. So what happens with Russ? Is he a Brown? Is he a Giant? Is he a free agent? What do you guys think?
Go ahead, Zachy.
Okay. I don't know, man. So I don't want to dog on the old guys, but I'm kind of out on Russ too. I don't know. I would rather have Russell Wilson, I think, for a year for a team that's trying to win football games, than counting on a rookie draft pick out of this draft. So I'll go back to that. But I don't know. If I'm the Steelers, and again, it could be bias coming out, but I would rather have Justin Fields at 2 years, $20 million a year than Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson. That's my personal opinion. I don't know, but you had him on the roster.
Yeah, they already chose Wilson over Fields, right?
No, yeah. I mean, yeah, that's true. I don't know where Russ ends up, but I hope that wherever he goes, he can have some success, and it might make sense to put him with the Giants, and especially if they do draft a quarterback in this class, you go get a Jackson Dart or something like that, and hope that he's there in your second round whenever it comes around. I'm not saying that at their first round pick, but if he dropped that far, maybe you get a Russell Wilson. He knows the game. He's smart, and putting somebody like that in a quarterback room is never a bad decision. So if anything, from a mentoring standpoint, I could see him being very, very valuable to a team.
He's corny as hell, though, bro. Do you think that?
Yes.
Do you think that the youth of this year want someone like Russell Wilson? He just
he can teach him football. He can teach him football. He can teach him how to read, where you should be going, where you should go on this play, where you should go on this play, where you should be thinking about, how to identify a defense. He knows very well. He's you can't argue with the fact that he's been around. He's been very successful. He would be a great mentor to a young quarterback. He is corny as hell. I'm not arguing that. I 100% agree.
Or he hopped in here.
But yeah.
Hop in.
So-
60 seconds. We got to go.
No, I'll keep it less than that. Just a blurb. I still think that Brian Daboll, when it comes to quarterbacks and offenses, is a good coach. So I think that he is getting frustrated over the years. He wants a quarterback that is on his level and like that he can work with, that can operate the offense that he wants. And I think that mentally, Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers are both capable of that, and he knows it. So I think either one of them, honestly, I don't think you could argue that would be ideal. But if you get like a Jackson Dart, maybe, or I don't know, another project quarterback. But in the meantime, they have to have someone. And there's just, at this point, there's nobody there. But I think you could have Rodgers or Wilson to work with Daboll to get something going. I don't know.
We'll see what happens. It's looking like Rodgers, but One of the things that's very interesting in this conversation is that we keep talking about Jackson Dart, which I agree, developmental quarterback. There's no interest in any of the three of our conversations about putting a Cam Ward or a Shedeur Sanders in. And I think we're correct for that. So I'll be curious. They're going to get drafted in the first round. It's just a matter of like, will they actually work out? Because I really don't think they will.
I hope they do. I hope I'm wrong. I just, I'm not a believer.
Gabriel from Oregon, I don't think he'll work out. I mean, I really don't think this draft class is good.
Yeah. It's a rough one.
Let's move on. This is just going to be a longer episode, so I apologize to people watching, listening.
I apologize.
The NFL offseason is very exciting for the three of us, and there's a lot we want to talk. I probably should have just only made this an NFL episode, but here we are. Let's move on. I want to hear, and Zach, we'll start with you, but the Bears have made some moves that I think three of us all agree that they should have been doing for years. They've been stacking up the skills players these last few years, but they haven't been winning in the trenches. This year, they might. What's been going on with the Bears? What are your thoughts on it? You tell me. I want you to tell me what they've been doing and how you feel about it.
So, as a Bears fan, I have said multiple times that the off season is the best time of the year because you get hopeful and you're ready for the next year, and then the year starts and then things go south. So I'm hoping that's not what happens here, but I will say that the Bears have made the moves. Like if I was running the team, it's the moves that I would want to see happening. Like you go out and you get a center, you get two guards. You're making trades. You're getting that offensive line settled up. You're getting, you got a defensive end coming in. You got a defensive tackle coming in. Both sides of the ball on the line. You're shoring it up. Signing Ben Johnson, I think that's big. I mean, honestly, if I could write like what I would want the Bears to do, I would have said, get the offensive line improved, get the defensive line improved, and change a head coach and get your offensive head coach in there. They've done all those things. I don't know where it goes from here. It's the Bears. So, they could go like 3-14 or whatever next year, and I wouldn't be shocked, but I'm optimistic. Honestly, it's what I wanted to see happen. I think they can win some games here. I think they can be dangerous. We'll see.
Before we go to Jordan, Zach, how do you feel about letting Keenan Allen go? He's a free agent. If he goes, how do you feel about that?
Honestly, I would like to see him come back. I think Keenan Allen, with a better offensive line with Caleb, and then you got DJ and then Rome, I would like to see them bring Keenan Allen back, but the money is tight now after the moves that they've made, so I don't expect him to be back, but I also think that Rome is ready to step into a bigger role.
Do you think that getting the trenches secure was more important than Keenan Allen?
Absolutely. 1,000%. And there's a lot of speculation at 10 now that they go with Janty. I don't know. Honestly, my thought is that the signs are pointing that way. But if I'm them, I'm still taking the best edge or the best offensive lineman available. Like, that's where I'm going with that. If they take him, I'm okay with it now. They've made the moves to at least settle those positions, but I would still rather see them take an offensive lineman or defensive edge at that pick. But if they take him, it'd be kind of sick. And we know because we're all in a dynasty league together that I'm sitting with the 101. It would be pretty crazy. Like if they took him, I mean, it would be locked in. I would tell you right now, like if the Bears take him, like he's my pick, and then we'll go down together. So
it does sound exciting, and you still have Swift over there, right? That hasn't changed. So Janty doesn't even have to be that guy. He can be a part of the team, and they're different types of backs. They've made great offseason moves. In my opinion, they don't need Keenan Allen back, but if they get him, cool. Jordan, what do you think? Just any response to that?
Yeah, just quickly, I think he covered everything well. I don't think that Keenan Allen would be a priority. I think that Rome is ready. I think that you've got a great 1-2 with DJ and Rome. Keenan would not be a priority if it was me. I actually would probably go with best player available, whoever you think that is. If you think that's Janty, then do Janty. But if it's, empty tackle or corner or whoever, they've done a great job at kind of adding pieces. I'd be surprised if they went offensive line because they got Darnell Wright and they've added so many pieces. If they added another offensive lineman, I'd be a little surprised, but who knows? I don't know. Do they still need a tackle? I don't know. Zach, you know better than me. But
Braxton Jones is the other tackle, and I think he's serviceable. But if there's a top of the line tackle out there, I wouldn't be mad about him taking it. And you're one injury away from needing another offensive lineman. So
it's never a bad idea. But overall, I think they're doing all the right things. It's like an A+ like off season so far. Yeah.
We've seen a lot of running backs become stars overnight when they go to a team with a great offensive line, and
100%.
I think that Caleb and that backfield could have really benefit from that, and they've done what we all agree on, where the steps they needed to take this year. Let's move back to the Steelers. We talked a lot about the quarterback position, but they've made some other moves, and we've alluded to this already, but they got DK Metcalf on the team. He's a big body alpha deep threat. He's kind of like George Pickens in that regard. They've gotten rid of Najee Harris, which there was always this weird thing about Najee Harris and Warren and who's the guy. There's some questions here, though. I mean, I think bringing in DK makes a lot of sense. Pickens is a head case, but he's a very talented football player. Is there room for both of them? Or do they need to move Pickens and fill in other gaps? And then what are they doing? I mean, we talked about quarterback already, but Jordan, I want to hear from you. What does their backfield look like with just Warren now? And what does their wide receiver core look like if they have both of these wide receivers? Or do they need to move on from Pickens and just start fresh with DK as their guy?
Yeah, I think in the draft, they'll address running back to pair with Warren. I don't know if they're going to go like a high pick, but maybe the later rounds, they might pick up somebody that they like, third, fourth, fifth, later rounds. I personally think Pickens is done there. I think this is his last year. So I imagine if I were them, I'd trade him. Because I'm sure there's some teams that will take the chance on him and sign him to a longer deal that he'd want to do. DK's the man. I think he's underrated, actually, as good as he is in Seattle, and Gino was like getting him the ball. But I think DK's a little disrespected in terms of he's not quite in that CD Chase, Justin Jefferson tier. But I think people put him even in like almost like 2 tiers down. And I think that he's still up there and can be a high level wide receiver 1 in the league for that team. And they obviously believe it. It's 5 years, ton of money. Get the right quarterback in there, and I think you're going to be very happy with him long term.
I could see Pickens going to a team like the Patriots, the Panthers, the Raiders, like a team like that, or even the Broncos, maybe. But he's going to have to get his head on straight for some of those teams. I can't imagine a lot of head coaches want to coach him as a player right now. Zachy, do you have anything burning you want to say? If not, we're going to move on for the instant.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'd say real quick, I think if they can coexist, that's the best option for the Steelers, but I don't think that Pickens will like it if DK is the number 1 there, which I think he probably is / will be. They're very similar. I think they move on. Yeah.
As a guy who owns Pickens in a dynasty league, I want him to go somewhere else and be the number 1, or part of me thinks that DK could take some pressure off of him and make him more of a possession receiver. He doesn't have to only run downfield all the time, but he is such a head case. If he's not the number 1 guy, I don't know if he'll survive. So,
one more blurb real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think if they believed in George Pickens, they would have signed him into an extension. He's got 1 year left on his deal. They wouldn't have made this huge deal for DK. And there's a 0% chance that Pickens is going to little bro DK. 0% chance. So I think it's like the writing's on the wall, in my opinion.
Yeah, honestly, I want him traded for the sake of my fantasy team. Say, you're right. Both those guys are going to fight every cornerback in the league, but they also might fight each other, which I'm a little bit concerned about.
Yeah,
with DK.
All right, I teed this up earlier. We're going to come back to the Bengals now, and I just want to talk about what they've been doing with this Ja'Marr Chase thing. So obviously, last year he really wanted that long-term deal. He held out for a while. It was kind of a rocky start, week 1 and 2. Zach, you have him on your fantasy team, so I know you know that.
Yeah,
but they have committed publicly to making him the highest paid non-quarterback player in the league. They did that last year. The price tag then would have been $36 million per year, which is very high for a non-quarterback. They screwed themselves. He went on to win the Triple Crown. He led the league in receptions, yards, and touchdowns. He was by far the greatest receiver in the league. And then this offseason, Myles Garrett just signed a $40 million per year deal. So that's already higher than $36 million. And the Bengals also have, like you mentioned earlier, have to figure out what to do with Trey Hendrickson. They've got T. Higgins franchise tag. They're going to have to figure that out at some point. So they've got to figure this out with Jamar Chase. Now is the time they have to do it. And the silver lining is, but hey, we signed Mike Gesicki. They fumbled the bag, man. And this is what I was talking about earlier. If you address these things when they come up, you save money in the long run. Yes, the salary cap went up this year, but also, yes, his price tag is going to significantly go up this year as well. What do you guys think? I mean, the Bengals are in a mess here. What are your initial thoughts about the Jamar Chase situation here? I'll go Jordan first.
Okay. Yeah, I said it earlier in the show that I don't quite understand it. I don't know what the goal is. What, like, in their dream scenario, what does it look like? Because I just don't see the money panning out. You're going to have no one else on your team that makes sense. And their defense was just so atrocious, and you can blame Anarumo all you want, but the defense was just poor outside of Hendrickson. And so I just don't know what the plan is. I guess like they're going to try to like throw the Hail Mary this next year. I mean, if you have Burrow and Chase and Higgins offensively, I mean, they scored 40 plus like nearly every game. And so I do think that they are a playoff team just because of the offensive
and
line.
Chase Brown too is no slouch.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And so I guess like you just got to go with it with how their offense was last year, and then just hope for the best. But it doesn't seem like they have a long-term strategy that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, Zachy, big initial thoughts on this?
I just said before, I don't know what the Bengals are doing. I did see that Jamar posted something, and I don't have it pulled up, so I may quote it wrong, but it was an Instagram post, and it said something along the lines of, know your value, then add tax. And that was just posted like literally just today, I believe. So, he's...
Go off, King.
Yeah, he's ready to get paid. They got to pay him. Just do it. Like, you can't... I mean, you're not going to let him walk, so what are you doing? And if you do let him walk, then you're going to be a laughing stock for the entire league. So,
yeah,
I don't just pay the man. Like,
all right. Well, I mean, they're a mess, but they're a very talented team. And I agree with what Jordan said. Roll the dice, go all in this year, because you're not going to have it next year. It's not going to look like it does this year. You get rid of these players, you might be able to bolster up the defense and maybe come net neutral, but you're not going to have the offense that you have this year ever again. Go all in. Real quick before we move forward, Jaguars. I know you've adopted the Jaguars as your team, Jordan. Let's talk about this. In one day, they traded Christian Kirk to the Texans. They released Devin Duvernay. They released Evan Ingram. They released Josh Reynolds. And they released Ronald Darby, who was a former Super Bowl champion. So what are they doing? They're in rebuild mode, or are they just making some cap space to make a big move?
It's definitely a rebuild type of mode. They got Liam Cohen in there, so we're hoping to fix Trevor Lawrence. It just wasn't working, so they're trying to revamp. I don't know if it's a full rebuild. We got Brian Thomas Jr. The defense is middle of the road. I don't know. It's tough. I know Evan Ingram's going to be gone, but he was getting on the older side, so I don't really know. I'm a little confused myself. They're like my adopted fandom team, even though they had a rough time the past couple of years. I'm going to stick it through because I need a team, and I do like Trevor Lawrence, and I still think he can be I don't think he can be like a top guy, but I think he could be, somewhere like top 12, 15 type of quarterback consistently. I do think that that's in the cards with maybe a little more upside. But as a team as a whole, I think they're going to have to get used to what their identity is and where the direction is. So kind of a middle of the road rebuild.
Yeah. Well, there's still people out there. Stephon Diggs is the free agent. Keenan Allen, we talked about. Probably not going to be Nick Chubb. J.K. Dobbins. Can you guys still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. My computer just buzzed. Okay. But anyway, there's stuff out there. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting year. We are going to forego the halftime pour this episode. But Zach, I want to hear, what are you sipping on and why'd you choose it?
Yeah. So I've got Smoke Wagon Unfiltered Uncut. I don't know if you can see this here. This bottle's special to me. I mentioned early in the episode here that our oldest daughter is turning 3 tomorrow. With both of our daughters, I've bought a bottle of bourbon. It's been like their bottle of bourbon to celebrate them coming into this world. So this was our oldest daughter's bottle for me. Birthday tomorrow. Sipping on it. It is also just an incredible bourbon. Smoke Wagon makes some great stuff. It's got a lot of spice. It's just, it's a variety of flavors. If you haven't had Smoke Wagon product, Unfiltered, uncut, in my opinion, is the way to go. You get the full burn, the full flavor. But it's a special bottle to me, and yeah, cheers.
Yeah. Cheers, my friend. I'm going to talk about what I'm drinking on next week's episode for the interest of time, but congrats to you. 3 years is an amazing accomplishment. And we're going to move on to a special segment for you two, sticking with the NFL theme. This is going to be called NFL Trivia Stat Trivia. So, with that said, hopefully nobody has looked at stats recently. I am going off of our fantasy football league statistics from last year, which is it's a super flex tight end premium league. We have a half PPR unless it's tight end, then it's full PPR. And we are going to pull up one of my favorite things in the world, which is a wheel. And I'm going to ask you guys to list the top 5 ranked players for certain statistical categories. And we are going to start with Jordan, and you are going to tell me the top 5. Oh, you might get lucky here. You're going to get, I think this is lucky. Top 5 quarterbacks in fantasy football points, not by any one stat, but fantasy football points in our league.
Okay.
So top 5, what do you got?
I got 3 I think should be easy. You can tell me, but Josh Allen.
Yep, he's number 2.
Lamar Jackson.
Number 1.
Joe Burrow.
Number 3.
And then after that, because of touchdowns, Jalen Hurts.
Not Jalen Hurts, which is surprising. He's number 8.
I got one.
Nope.
You got wait your turn. You get your own category. Maybe Jaden Daniels.
Number 5. Yep. Was that yours, Zach?
Yeah.
And
I'll give you a hint. Think early season MVP candidate.
Sam Darnold?
Nope. Before a major injury occurred. Not to him, but to a teammate. Think about a guy who throws a lot of touchdowns in the goal line to a specific wide receiver.
See, you guys said I'm blanking on it now.
Yeah, hot seat is rough. The hot seat is rough.
It's not like Matt Stafford, is it?
It's not Matt Stafford. Nope.
I don't know. I think I'm blanking right now. You can tell me.
NFC quarterback.
NFC quarterback.
Jared Goff?
Oh, Jared Goff. Yeah.
Nope. He was number 6, actually.
Okay.
Who's a wide receiver who
Yes.
is notorious for touchdowns from like the 1-yard line?
Baker Mayfield.
It's Baker Mayfield. He's an Eagles fan.
Mike Evans.
Whenever you said that, I was like Mike Evans.
I was like Mike Evans.
Absolutely Mike Evans.
Baker. Yeah.
Big entry to Chris Godwin, but he still had a lot of fantasy points this year.
I got you.
All right. And now we got 3 other positions: running back, receiver, and tight end. Zachy, which one do you want to get?
I don't know, man.
All right. Well, let's see what you do get. Let's see.
Probably the easiest.
Share it again.
I was thinking that too, Zach.
I didn't share it, but it is running back. You landed on running back.
Okay. Saquon.
Hold on 1 second. Yeah, so Saquon will be one. Yes, he's number 1.
Jahmyr Gibbs.
Number 2. Yep.
Bijan.
Number 4. Let's think touchdowns here. Who scores a lot of touchdowns?
Okay. James Cook.
He does score a lot of touchdowns, but he's not in the top 5. Who's a guy who scored almost every single week the whole year?
Oh, Kyron Williams.
Not him. He's number 7. He did score a lot. There's one I'm thinking of that scored.
Yeah. Getting torched. I'll call in backup if you got something, Jordan.
I think I got him, but I don't know.
Okay.
Who do you think is number 3, Jordan?
Derrick Henry.
Yep.
Oh,
Now that I'm leaving number 5 to you, Zach.
It's the hot seat.
I think I know this one too, but
This is a guy who was playing for a new team.
yeah,
Had a great season.
I got it. Just because I had him in fantasy in one of my leagues.
Probably
Josh
torched.
Jacobs?
Yep. I was gonna say probably torched the Bears. Yeah, Josh Gilbert. Go ahead.
Hey,
Yeah, what?
I got it. All right.
Hey, the hot seat is real, right?
It is. You start sweating.
Hell yeah. Okay. Now I got one more game for you guys. This is called Who's That Player? And I want you guys, basically whoever knows the player first will get the point. Okay.
Cool.
So, who's this player?
Nick Mullins.
Not Nick Mullins.
Oh, that's Case Keenum.
Case Keenum. Jordan's got one.
No, nice, dude.
I was like, it's the Vikings, but that's
Are you ready for number 2?
Yeah.
And all right, 1-0 Jordan. Player 2 is this guy.
Bucky Irving.
Not Bucky Irvin. Before that time.
Leonard Fournette.
Oh,
Yep. Yeah, from
he's gonna get the home run.
Let's go.
I think Bucky is number 7, isn't he now though?
He's either 7 or 1. I can't remember.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right, next one. This is one that shouldn't be as hard, I don't think. Who is this player?
Randall Cobb.
Amir Dukes.
Yep.
Randall Cobb. Nice.
All right, 2-1 Jordan. Now this will be a fun one, I think. Who is this player?
Peyton Hills.
Yep.
Oh, nice, dude.
All right, see, Jordan wins, but let's do the 5th one just because. This is a little bit of an older one, but not much older. Who's this guy?
Jeremy Shockey.
Aaron Shockey.
Yep.
He won. Yeah, he got it. But yeah.
Well played. You lose a lot too, though, Zach.
That's fun. I like that. That's a fun game.
Good game.
That's good.
If we had more time, this is a very stacked podcast episode.
Yeah.
I'm going to take a moment just to shout out everybody who watches the show, and thank you so much for those who comment and engage with the social media. We appreciate you. We hope you keep doing it. It means a lot to us. We're going to dip right into what we call our single barrel picks. We're going to rapid fire this, okay, guys? I want quick answers here. We're going to go Jordan first, Zach second on these picks. And that is going to be, in the NHL on Friday night, we got the Stars versus the Jets. Stars are a favorite by 1.5 goals. Who you got?
Jets win but don't cover. Wait, you said goals?
Yeah, so Stars are the favorite by 1.5.
Oh, they're the favorite by 1.5. So, the Stars are the favorite. I'll take the Jets.
All right. And then, Zach, what do you got?
Jets. Yeah, I'll take it.
Okay. This will be a fun one. Sunday night, Blues versus Wild. Wild are 1.5 point favorites. Who you got?
Don't give
Zach.
Blues.
Jordan first. Yep. And then Zach.
Come on. I have
Yep.
to.
Easy, right? All right. Now, rapid fire. First thing that comes to mind. Jordan, who is going to win the NCAA tournament this year, men's basketball?
Alabama.
Okay. Zach, who do you got?
I hate to do it, but Auburn.
Okay. I got Florida, just for what it's worth,
All SEC, by the way.
which is crazy.
Yeah.
Let's dive into NBA.
Duke sucks.
Saturday night, Knicks versus Warriors. Knicks are 5.5 point favorites. Jordan, who you got?
Oh, give me the Warriors because they're kind of hot and I like their team right now.
Okay.
Warriors.
Zach, who do you got?
Warriors. I'm sorry. We're picking all the same thing.
That's okay, because this last one, we have a stipulation on. This is the game of the week. And because we talked about the Lakers earlier, it's going to be Friday night, Lakers versus Nuggets. Now, the odds are not out for this game, so I'm just asking for a pick 'em. Jordan gets the pick first. Zach, you're stuck with the other team. So, Jordan, who do you got?
Sorry, Zachy. I'm going Nuggets because LeBron's out, and I'm also Jokic is the GOAT. So,
All right, Zach, you're stuck with the Lakers. Now, whoever wins that game, you get to pick my bourbon for next week's episode, all right? I'll go to the store, tell you what's there. You just tell me what to buy.
Oh, okay. Love it.
Cool.
All right.
And I hate to transition this quickly, but we're going to move right into our 2-minute warning now, which is a very fun segment where I'm going to ask alternating questions to each of you. It'll be back and forth. So one gets one question, the other gets the next. And basically, these are just fun sports and bourbon related questions. So let me pop this up really quick. And we got our 2 minutes on the screen here. And bear with me for 1 second. Okay, we are going to start with Zach this time. So, Zach, would you rather have to age a bottle of whiskey in your gym locker for an entire year or let it sit in an NFL Gatorade cooler for a whole season?
Gatorade cooler.
Good choice. Jordan, would you rather tailgate the world's worst bourbon drinkers, but have unlimited rare whiskey, or tailgate with the bourbon pros, but only drink cheap Fireball knockoffs?
oh, give me the good whiskey. I don't care who I'm with.
Yeah, hell yeah, dude.
Fair. Zachy, would you rather have your fantasy football team your fantasy football team permanently tattooed on you or legally change your name to Bourbon Barrel for 1 year?
A bourbon barrel for a year.
Okay.
Let's go.
Jordan, what would be the most absurd coach for a game? Shaquille O'Neal coaching an Olympic figure skating team or Charles Barkley leading a Formula One pit crew?
Oh, I think I'd rather see Chuck doing the Formula One. So I'd say the more ridiculous is Shaq and figure skating.
Okay, perfect. What would be the most odd sports cameo in a movie, Zach? LeBron James playing a villain in a horror movie or Patrick Mahomes voicing a Disney animated prince?
Oh, man. He's almost Kermit the Frog already, so I'm going to go Patrick Mahomes.
Okay. Now, weird rule changes. Would you rather have NFL kickers must spin in a circle 5 times before every field goal attempt, or NBA free throws must be taken with the player facing backwards and shooting over their head?
Give me the dizzy kickers. They don't really matter that much anyway.
Okay. Zach, in the PGA Tour, would you rather have golfers have to take 1 shot per round using a pool cue, or in NASCAR, every pit crew must have 1 mandatory cartwheel before servicing the car?
Ooh. Pool cue.
All right, last one here, Zach, or excuse me, Jordan. Would you rather have every NHL player must complete 1 lap around the rink on a unicycle before a shootout attempt, or an NBA fielder must wear inflatable sumo suits for 1 inning per game?
I guess give me the unicycle.
All right, and that is the 2-minute warning.
Oh, man.
Nobody said it was serious, right? But
Hell yeah.
all right, guys. Well, hey, I know it's been a longer episode, but it's been a great episode. I've really enjoyed the conversation. So let me thank you guys first, Jordan and Zach, for coming on here. Appreciate anyone who fills gaps when Deber I can't be here, but we also want to have guests on the show, even when we're both here. So thank you guys. We'll certainly be calling on your names again. But I want to thank the people who watch our show every week. This is episode 14. It's our longest episode yet. So thank you if you've hung this long. Check out those social media. We post clips from the podcast on there and other things that we think might be important for sports content. And we're live every Thursday with a new podcast episode. Last words of wisdom. Zach, what do you got?
Just thanks so much for having me on. This was a blast. I look forward to doing it again. Thanks, man.
You're always welcome back, man. Jordy, what you got?
I'm in the same boat. Thanks for having me on. It was a super good time. And I want those people on socials to roast Zachy for his Jets loving Justin Fields.
Make it go, baby. Come on. Come and get me.
Hell yeah. All right, boys. Well, cheers to you and cheers to everyone watching. Till next time.